Hanover. The times are dark and uncertain, but someone managed to use these hard times to an advantage to satisfy dark fantasies. He was luring young men in for a warm meal, only for them to end up being on the menu. This is a story about real life vampire Fritz Haarmann. Born on October 25th, 1879, Fritz was the youngest of six children. He was very loved by his mother, and she doted on his every whim. Whereas his father thought, well, the boy wasn't tough enough and he needed to be around more men rather than his mother. His father was very short tempered and enjoyed his drink a bit too much. And of course, the drink made him worse with his temper at times. At the age of 7, Fritz started school and he was primary example of a brilliant student. But he did lack academically. He didn't make any friends either, but he was close to his teachers. He did claim that the teacher, Fritz, when he was 8 years old, the claims that no one could prove nor disprove at the time. Fritz also enjoyed dressing in his sister's clothing and playing with his sister's dolls, which of course made his father even more resentful towards his son. So as soon as he could, he sent Fritz off to a military school at the age of 15 in Bresau, town south of Germany. Even though Fritz did really enjoy military, he was sent back due to experiencing anxiety neurosis, but later he was re-diagnosed as an epilepsy, which left Fritz to working for his father in his cigar factory. And this is where he began his disturbing journey to a serial killer. He began to lure young men and boys in secluded areas where he would abuse them. That didn't go on for too long, as Fritz did get arrested and sent for psychiatric evaluation that was done by Gert Schmalfuss. He had certified Fritz as incurably deranged, so therefore he wasn't fit to stand the trial for his crimes at the time. He was detained in mental asylum indefinitely. But Fritz, on the other hand, had a very different idea in mind. So, in 7 months, with help of his beloved mother, Fritz escaped the asylum and fled to Switzerland. And this is where he started a relationship with a woman called Erna Levert. She got pregnant very fast and they decided to get engaged. But their relationship had to wait as Fritz got called into military services late in 1900. He later stated that this absolutely made his life amazing by being in military. But of course, his mental health problems started to resurface again. He was sent to hospital, and after 4 months, he was diagnosed with dementia precox. But now he goes by the name of schizophrenia. And after that, he returned back to Erna and they traveled back to Hanover and went back down to work in his father's factory. And his father still had a lot of resentment towards his son, but Fritz started to threaten to kill his father on a few occasions. And that's when his father decided to help Fritz to get him out of his hair at the same time. So he helped Fritz and Erna to open up a fishmonger's shop. But soon enough, Fritz started accusing Emma of cheating. Erna, on the other hand, did not put up with these accusations and broke up the engagement and kicked him out of the house and business. And of course, that left Fritz all alone, unable to hold down any job because of his mental health. So his go to thing was burglaries, quick money scams, and money laundering. But his crimes were escalating more and more until in late September 1918, a 17-year-old Friedel Roth had run away from home. His family could not find anything to where the boy could have gone. They did know that he was friends with Fritz Haarmann, who everybody knew liked to take young boys to his apartment to have some quote unquote fun. So everyone already knows what he's like, right? But When they're spoken to police, he actually was a police informant at the time, so they didn't really want to be looking into Fritz. But they had no choice as they had the parents there and they were inquiring, and Fritz was involved. So they went to his apartment where they actually found a 13-year-old boy with him. Fritz was charged with indecency as laws were limited at the time. But police didn't actually bother to search through the apartment, and later on, this moment will haunt the police for the rest of their lives, as we will find out later. But Fritz wasn't only police informant, but he was also known as a black market butcher by his neighbours. Like, common sense right here says, take this man away, right? I mean, and nobody thought anything of it because, well, of the times it was, and I'm guessing somehow he was helping the police, and they just didn't really want to do the work and turned a black eye to it. So somehow this man was able to obtain meat at very cheap price compared to any other butcher. So, due to circumstances after the World War One, nobody wanted to question where the meat was from, how he did it, or well, anything about it because it was cheap. And people that were desperate, well, they were desperate, and the times were desperate as well. So you can't blame anyone for not questioning it for a very long time either. Yet, at the same time, people did know he liked to bring young boys and men into his apartment, and nobody actually really seen them leave. And people joked that he was killing them and turning them into the mincemeat that he was selling to everyone. It was widespread that kids made up a song about Fritz, and it went like this quote, "Wait just a while, soon Harmer will come to you too. With a little cleaver, he will make a liver sausage out of you." End quote. So, yeah, what does that say about him? Nothing good, really. Anyway, in 1923, mid February, two local women had gone to police asking if they could confirm that the meat they had found at Harmon's house that he was selling was pork or was it human flesh. As they seen young man go in and not leave, and they were getting freaked out by this point. So they decided that they're not going to leave until they will have some answers. So police, of course, understood and obliged and taken it to the doctor that they had at the time working at their forces. And he said that he has a cold and he can't smell anything, but a blind person can see that they are pork rinds. And of course, the investigation got shut down pretty fast after that, and nobody looked at it again. More than a year later, in summer 1924, kids reported seeing a human skull on the banks of a river liner. It runs across the city of Hanover. When authorities examined the skull, it was determined that the skull was of a young man and it was removed with a knife. They did try and say that someone must have been playing a prank to everyone and it must have been medical students. But of course, that didn't apply with people of Hanover, so police was forced to look further and they found another three skulls and bag of bones. Then more than 100 residents went to river searching for anything else they can find, and indeed they did find more human bones. So police quickly dredged the river and found over 500 pieces of human remains. And of course, because of Fritz's reputation, he was the first suspect on the list. But because Fritz knew all the local police officers, they had to bring someone new that he wouldn't know and go undercover. So they managed to get two police officers from Berlin to do the job. They patrolled Hanover station as that's where the young boys were last seen before disappearing, and they did also know that Fritz ventured there himself also. And one day they found Fritz arguing with a boy, and he shouted to police that they needed to arrest this boy as he was traveling with false documents. And that worked against Fritz, as this 15-year-old boy has been staying with Fritz for the last few days. And the young boy had told them that he had been assaulted several times during of his stay. Of course, that gave police the ammunition they needed to arrest Fritz and search his apartment, where police found blood-stained walls everywhere. And Fritz was saying that that is due to the animals he slaughtered for his black market meat. That is all. However, personal items from young man were found in his apartment as well. They were taken to the station and asked if anyone could recognize any of the clothing, and there were many people that did indeed identify the clothing that was presented in the police station. Fritz actually didn't make the investigation easy. He didn't really want to talk about anything that he did, and that led police to do some illegal methods to get the confession from him. And one of the things they did do that we know about now is they fastened 4 screws in each corner of his cell and covered eye sockets with red paper, put a burning candle behind him. A sack of bones was also placed in the corner of the cell. They persuaded Haarmann to the souls of the dead will come and take him if he will not be honest during interrogations and tell them what actually happened. No one actually knew about these methods at the time. It was only 1990s when Detective Inspector Herman Lang, who worked on the case, wrote his memoirs. If it would have been discovered much earlier, that Fritz would have been released. And in early July 1924, 44-year-old Fritz Haarmann confessed to the murders. He said he stopped counting after the 20th victim. Fritz was trying to say that he was intoxicated with lust of darkness, as he said. And he gave him a love bite. That's what he referred to it as. And what is the love bite? So a love bite is where he, during the act, would bite into man's Adam's apple, and he would do it until his teeth met. And of course, as you can imagine, that nobody's going to survive that, especially at those times. I mean, it was a death sentence on its own back then, and I doubt many people would have even survived it now if anybody did that. So, I mean, that is a horrible way to go for anyone. So it was just a terrific thing to do to anyone. Hence, his one of his nicknames that he was a vampire of Hanover, or wolf of Hanover, and also he was actually at one point referred as the butcher of Hanover as well. But Fritz did say many times that what he did wasn't on purpose. It was all by accident, and it was mainly because he was just taken over by this darkness, and he couldn't help himself. He initially did mention to police that if they would have looked through his apartment when they were looking for 17-year-old Friedel Roth, they would have found the boy's head wrapped in newspaper and left behind his stove, which is, of course, going to be a damn horrible thing for police to find out. And, of course, many people also blame police that, if they would have actually done their job at the time and did what they actually came in to do at the time, all these lives would have been spared. And he also brought the question of the meat that he sold. But police never said that it was human meat that he sold, but he would explain the quantities and the price that he was managing to sell it as. So, but I mean, nobody actually knew, and I think it was down to the fact that it was gruesome enough as it was what he's done to all these people. And I don't think they wanted to put that on public as well, to say, hey, like these young men that were dead, you vet them as well. So I think they kind of were also sparing the public from the information, but it was never told properly. But there is a lot of speculation that basically he was making all his neighbors cannibals as well, and that was one of his fantasies as such. Anyway, Fritz was charged with 27 murders, only due to the fact that that's how many remains they managed to identify. He speculated that he might have killed as many as 70, but of course we will never know the actual number. I mean, 27 is bad enough. During this trial, Fritz was acting out quite a lot, even smoking cigars during this trial, insulting people around him. He had absolutely no empathy whatsoever for the families, for his own family, or anything. He said he didn't remember faces or anything in particular about these young men. When he was shown some sketches of the young boys that had been missing, he said he probably did kill them. He didn't really care, basically, at the time when they were questioning him. All he said is, yeah, I probably did that. I don't care. Yeah, I probably did. But he did say one of the things, he said that the skulls that they found, they didn't belong to him, because what he did like to do is crush the skulls, so they wouldn't be identifiable like the ones that they found. And he said that they more than likely got another serial killer on the loose. So, he was just kind of proud of himself to say that, oh, well, I'm actually not the only one, clearly. Anyway, so when he went through his evaluation, a mental evaluation, they deemed him fit and sane to stand a trial. He was quickly deemed to be put to death. He did say to the jurors, often after I had killed, I had pleaded to be put away in the military asylum, but not a madhouse. If Grans, his lover, really loved me, he would have been able to save me. I am not ill, it's only that I occasionally have funny turns. I want to be beheaded, it will only take a moment, then I will be at peace. So, of course, where does his lover fit into this? Well, Hans Grant met Fritz when he was imprisoned for petty crimes in 1919. Fritz stated that Hans talked Fritz into killing some young man because he liked their clothing, and for that, later, Hans, his lover, was also sentenced to life in prison for his role in these horrible crimes. Although originally they did give Hans a death sentence, but it was overturned because they decided that it wasn't that bad, basically. And on April 15th, 1925, Fritz Haarmann was decapitated by guillotine. With that reign of Butcher of Hanover was finished. Fritz's head was sent off to Brain Research Institute in Munich, where they found that Fritz had meningitis and inflammation of the brain and spinal cord that has been also known to lead to drastic changes in personality, and they believe that played a big role in the crimes he had committed. This serial killer left many intrigued with his killings and finding out what he actually did with the bodies. His cleaver was actually, and well, still is, displayed in a police museum in Lower Saxony in the city of Nuremberg, which to this day still attracts thousands of people every year. So thank you for staying with me and hopefully enjoying the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell for new videos. Stay safe out there. Thank you and goodbye.